Hello everyone, welcome back to part 4 of Kinship, Caste and Class Early Societies, circa 600 BC to 600 CE. Today we'll talk about the Gotra of Women. The topics that we'll discuss today are the Gotra rules for women and were mothers important. After the end of this video lesson, you would be able to tell about Gotra rules for women, define metronomics, and highlight the importance of mothers. Now let's talk about the Gotra rules for women. We'll discuss what exactly Gotra is and specific rules for women. So, one Brahmanical practice to classify people in terms of Gotras. Each Gotra was named after a Vedic seer, means Mahatma, Rishi, and all those who belonged to the same Gotra were regarded as his descendants. So the ultimate origin is considered from the Vedic seer, and that becomes the Gotra of particular person. Now, it's very important to understand two rules about Gotra, particularly for women. The first one is that women were expected to give up their father's Gotra and adopt that of their husband on marriage. So the Gotra used to change once women used to marry someone, and women had to adopt the Gotra of their husbands. The second thing is members of the same Gotra could not marry. Still practiced. It is still practiced, and the members of the same Gotra could not marry. However, we find contradiction in these rules. When we check or get information about Satvahana rulers, some of the Satvahana rulers were polygynous, to have more number of wives, more than one. The queens who married Satvahana rulers indicate that many of them had their father's Gotras even after the marriage. So it is a contradiction, because normally, as per the rules of Gotra that we have read, that the Gotra changes after marriage. But in this case, we find that the Gotras remain the same. Another thing that is visible, that is apparent, is that some of these queens belong to the same Gotra. So this also defies or cancels the rules of Gotra, because as per the rules, Brahmanical text, it had been recommended to practice exogamy. It means outside the unit of Gotra. However, this practice defies it, cancels it, and in fact tells that the Vedic rules had not been followed here. Now, another practice that exemplifies it, that of endogamy, or marriage within the kin group. So within the same group, within the same Gotra, marriages happened, and again the same case of Satvahanas, and that also defies the rules of Brahmanical text. It means it doesn't follow the rules of Brahmanical text. Satvahanas also had marriage relations with Shakas. This is another thing that we find, that they married with Shakas, Shaka rulers, who were considered as outcasts. So it's another thing, if we consider them endogamous, marrying within the same unit, here in this part we understand that no, That was a different practice, and even outside the whole kin group. And we have evidences that they got married to Shaka rulers as well. Satvana rulers were identified through metronomics, means the name derived from that of the mother. So their names were taken from mother, which is unusual. But the succession to the throne was generally patrilineal. So here we see that the names had been derived from mother. However, the succession to the throne, means getting the kingdom or getting the rule, was patrilineal, means the rule transferred from father to son and so on, not to the daughters. Now let's talk about metronomics in the Upanishads. We find examples of metronomics in Upanishads. The Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, one of the earliest Upanishads, we'll discuss about it in chapter 4, contains a list of successive generations of teachers and students, many of whom were designated by metronomics. So we have examples that shows metronomics means name taken from mother. Now we have source 4, that is names of Satvahana kings from inscriptions, and that will clarify what we discussed. These are the names of several generations of Satvahana rulers recovered from various inscriptions which were inscribed somewhere. Note the uniform title Raja. You'll find in all the names the title Raja is there. Also note the following word which ends with the term Puta. Puta, a Prakrit word which means son, like Putra. The term Gautami Puta means son of Gautami. Names like Gautami and Vasiti are feminine forms of Gautama and Vasistha. So Vedic seers after whom Gotras were named. So here we find the feminine of Vedic seers. Now let's have a look on all the names here. Raja Gautami Puta Shri Satakani, Raja Vasiti Puta Siri Pulamai, Raja Gautami Puta Sami Siri Yana Satakarni, Raja Madhuri Puta Swami Sakasena, Raja Vasati Puta Chhatrapana Satakani, Raja Hariti Puta Vinhukada Chutukula Namada Satakamani, and Raja Gautami Puta Sri Vijaya Satakani. So in all the names we see the common is Raja, and the Gotra, the feminine Gotra we can see, and in addition to that we see Puta attached there. So that shows whose son they are, and their mother's Gotra has been taken. So now how many Gautami Putas and how many Vasiti Putas are there? So you can check it out. Now let's look at this picture. It is a Satvana ruler and his wife. This is one of the rare sculptural depictions of a ruler from the wall of a cave donated to Buddhist monks. This sculpture is believed to be of circa 2nd century BCE. Now, let's understand the importance of mothers. As we have already studied that there had been patrilineal, and it was like patriarchal society, and patrilineal was believed and followed. It's true. However, the importance of mother was also there, that we can clearly understand from this excerpt from Mahabharata. And it says a mother's advice. The Mahabharata describes how when war between the Kauravas and the Pandavas became almost inevitable, when it was pretty sure that the war is going to happen between Kauravas and Pandavas, Gandhari warned her son. Gandhari made one last appeal. Gandhari was mother of Duryodhana, and he appealed at last to her eldest son Duryodhana, by making peace you honor your father and me. So she says to her her son that by establishing peace or making peace, by not fighting with Pandavas, you would honor, means Duryodhan would honor his father Dhritarashtra and his mother Gandhari, as well as your well wishers. It is the wise man in control of his senses who guards his kingdom. And she says that every wise man, every intellectual wise person should guard his kingdom, and that is the prime duty of the wise man. And she says greed and anger, two things. Greed and anger drag a man away from his profits. So people do wrong things if they are with the idea and the feeling of greed as well as anger. So in greed and anger, nothing would happen, and people would go away from profits. And by defeating these two enemies, a king conquers the earth. So that was her belief, and that if someone defeats greed and anger, then the person would conquer the whole earth. You will happily enjoy the earth, my son, along with the wise and heroic Pandavas. And she says that the Pandavas are brave, and you would enjoy life, enjoy earth by living with them and not fighting with them. And she warns that, and she tells that there is no good in a war, and no law and profit, let alone happiness, nor is there victory in the end. Don't set your mind on war. So she says that victory is not sure, and there won't be dharma or artha, profit, money. Nothing is there in fighting with them, and the best would be if Duryodhana does not fight with the Pandavas. And hence she says not to set mind on war. However, as we all know, that Duryodhana did not listen to this advice and fought and lost the war. Now let's understand, were mothers important? Satvana rulers were identified through metronomics, names derived from that of the mother. So that proves that mothers were important. Although this may suggest that mothers were important, we need to be cautious before we arrive any conclusion. It is evident that mothers were important, but still we cannot arrive at any conclusion. In the case of Satavahanas, as we know that succession to the throne was generally patrilineal, as we have already discussed. That although mothers were important, but the transfer of kingdom was, or the succession was generally patrilineal. Now, you can correlate it with today's life. How are children named today? Are these ways of naming similar to or different from those described in this section? So you can find out, like even today, like the surname of father is used. So to a great extent, it is patrilineal. Now, let's look at this picture, and it's a fight that you see between, it's a battle scene, and it's a battle scene. This is amongst the earliest sculptural depictions of a scene from the Mahabharata, and it is a terracotta sculpture from the walls of a temple in Achit Chhatra, Uttar Pradesh, and it is dated back to circa 5th century CE. So it's all about today, as we discussed about Gotra and the importance of mothers. These are the assignment questions. You would be able to answer these questions on the basis of the discussion that we have had right now. Thank you and have a great day.